Mac, my good friend John Panarese from Mac2023.com with us today. I'm pretty sure y'all know who he is by now. Runs a website, teaches Apple and some Windows products. I gotta say that with a lower voice. But he's gonna show us how to use column view today. That's not a feature of the Mac and VoiceOver that I use.
What I'm going to show you guys is one of the reasons why I personally, and this is my own personal choice, why I like to use column view as one of the view options for you working with Finder. Now, just to kind of take a step back, there are 4 specific view options. You have icon or image, list, column, and gallery. Now, some people have managed to use icon view. I am more of a proponent of list or using columns. Now, I use columns for teaching because a lot of times I have people who are coming over from Windows, and using column view kind of gives them the same familiarity as the tree view, the traditional tree view that you find in a lot of places in Windows and JAWS. So the idea is everything that you find on the same column is on the same level of the folder structure. When you go to the right, you're going deeper into the folder structure. So you're going down a level. If you're going to the left, you're going back. So I'm on my desktop right now, and I'm on Macintosh HD. So I'm going to kind of give you a demonstration here.
Macintosh HD window, column view, browse.
So I'm going to interact with the column because the browser is the browser side of the Finder
Applications
window.
Folder.
Now, I'm also going to just show you how to quickly, you can go to the, I know Matt likes the menu bar, going to the menu bar, and under view, you can do view options. But a quick way of doing it is just doing Command J.
Macintosh HD window. Browse, always open in column view, unchecked checkbox.
So you have checkboxes here. So this is not permanent in the sense that you can always come back and change here. But if you want to make sure that things will open in columns.
Browse in column view, checked checkbox.
And browse in column view, which means that open means anytime you open a Finder window, theoretically, it should be in column view. And then if you browse subsequent, folders and such within the structure, they should also be in column view. Now theoretically.
When you check that checkbox to always open in column view, did it automatically check that box to browse in column view, or is that a checkbox that you have to do?
It should do the checkbox. Now, I just want to make a side note about opening in column view. There are instances in which this is not obeyed by the system. When you open a DMG file, a disk image that, let's say you download Skype or Dropbox or something from the internet, they will come down in DMGs or disk images. For whatever the reason, I guess because it is technically like if you had a DVD or a CD. So when you open the DMG, it initially will go to icon or image view. Just remember the keyboard shortcut of Command 3 to switch to columns, or Command 2 to switch to list view.
List one item selected.
So I just closed the view options there. Now I'm back on my Macintosh HD. So this is the top level of the folder structure. And again, this is why I use columns, because it allows people to understand that in your root directory, you have 4 important folders.
Applications, folder.
Applications.
Library, folder.
Library.
System, folder.
System.
Users, folder.
And users. So these folders are all at the same level. That's why they're in the same column. But if I go back up to applications.
System, library, applications.
And I go to the right.
My docs, folder.
I have my applications folder.
1password.app, ADBYY fine reader, express.app, accessible event host.app, acquisition.app.
So I'm just going down the list because these guys are all in the same column. So they're all within the applications folder, and it's an alphabetical listing of all the apps that are either pre-installed or that I have collected over the years. Some of these apps, I don't even know what they do, to be honest with you, because I got them in deals with different, like there used to be something called the Mac Legion bundle, and I used to get a whole bunch of apps that way. So that's why I
Adapter.app, Adobe Acrobat,
all kinds of crazy stuff in here. So I'm going to just do a VO left arrow.
Applications.
And I'm back out. I backed out.
Laura Papa's joined this channel.
Back
Folder.
up to the top level again, the root directory. So when I teach people this, I kind of tell them to think of the root directory as a sandwich, and that the bread, the applications at the top and the users at the bottom are the most important folders to really know.
Library, folder, system, folder.
Library and system folders are resources that run your Mac. I don't like to dissuade people from going in there and poking around. You're more than welcome to do so and check it out, mainly because Apple has instituted system integrity protection, where you can't, as the user, do anything that would damage the Mac or render it, that you couldn't boot it up again or anything like that. It's not like in Windows. You could probably do damage a lot more easily than you can on a Mac, accidentally.
Users, folder.
So the users folder at the bottom is where your home folder is. So again, this is why I use columns, so people understand. So if I VO right arrow,
John, folder.
there is my home folder, which is just my name. But you also will have a share folder.
Shared, folder.
And that's, only important if you are sharing the Mac with multiple people, because the share folder acts as the town square, where you can leave files and stuff that you want everybody to have, to be able to access, to make available to every user on the system. Remember that the Mac is very big on security and privileges. So you can't venture into other people's folders to see what they have in their documents or their downloads. So if you have a Mac situation, like I'm working with a client right now who has the husband, wife, and 2 daughters, each have an account on their iMac. So there's 4 user folders. So, most of us are using one
Candy
single,
Bridges joined this channel.
one single user. So that's why, for me, it's just going to be
John, folder.
my home folder. Now, once I go, I'm on my home folder. If I go to the right,
Docs, folder.
I am inside. I'm down another level. This is my home folder. Now, I have iCloud documents and desktops turned on, so I do not have a desktop or documents folder in my home folder. I created a folder that I call Docs for keeping documents that I don't need to have available to me in iCloud on all my devices. These are just Mac-specific documents that are not important enough that I need to, be able to grab them if I'm on my other Mac or if I'm on my iPad or my iPhone. But if we go down,
Downloads, folder.
we have my downloads folder,
Dropbox, folder.
Dropbox, because I use Dropbox.
I put it Audible, folder.
This is an audio application that created a thing for converting Audible books, the DM, what they call it, the digital right, DRM stuff into a MP4.
I put log, folder. Games, folder.
Then I have an old games folder that I created that I keep a bunch of old interactive fiction stuff.
Google Drive, folder.
And Google Drive. So as I go down here, these folders are all at the same level. Now, of course, just like you can do in Windows, you can create your own subfolders, and you can have your folder structure, honeycombed in any way you desire. But the column view allows you to understand
joined this channel.
the depths as you create and go down your file and your folder structure. So if I back out,
John, folder.
I'm back out on John. I'm on my home folder list. And if I hit VO left arrow again,
Users, folder.
I'm back at the top level. So it's like going upstairs from the sub-basement back up to the main level. So this is why I like to use column view. Not everybody, list view works fine. Sometimes I do use list view because of the way that the table presents, like the date last modified and when it was, created, et cetera, if I'm looking for a specific file for a reason. But on my everyday use, I like column view. I've gotten, I guess, accustomed to it. It's a habitual sort of thing, but it's also the tool that I use to teach people how to navigate and understand their Finder, because Yeah, there are a lot of keyboard shortcuts. There's a lot, you can use the sidebar. There's a lot of ways you can get around your file and folder structure. But if you really don't understand where your stuff is, it's basically the equivalent of moving into a new neighborhood as a blind person. And somebody kind like a neighbor or whatever shows you how to get to specific places in the neighborhood, the bank, the supermarket. But let's say you needed to go to a place you never were before, or that person's not there to help you when you get lost coming back. You don't know your neighborhood, you're done. So I kind of equate that same thing to understanding where your files and folders, especially as a beginner Mac user. You want to start organizing
Howells joined
your
this channel.
stuff. If you organize your stuff right away, then you always know where it is. You know, one of the lines I always use with clients as a joke is, it doesn't matter how chaotic, how disorganized you are in your everyday life with your house, your office, you know, your bedroom, whatever. When you're using your computer, at least try to make it an effort to organize. And I just think that if you column view for a beginning, for a newbie, really helps them grasp the levels of their folders. Now, if I go to iCloud Drive with Command-Shift-I,
iCloud Drive, Apple Resource Center, folder, desktop, folder, documents,
so it's the same principle. I have all my folders in my iCloud Drive,
downloads, folder,
including ones that I've created for sharing with people. So Apple Resource Center,
file browser, folder, iCloud Drive upgrade, recovered, Justin, numbers, folder,
Justin,
pages,
you
folder,
know, then we have our regular iCloud apps, the ones that are iCloud savvy that will, you know, will sync with iCloud. So pages, numbers, text edit, etc. But you're going to find the same principle in that in column view, you go into a folder and you're going to see the documents. And if you've created subfolders, you'll continue to go down levels. So my point being that iCloud works the same way. So it doesn't matter whether you use columns and you're going to use iCloud Drive or not. You're still facing the same, you know, situation where there's, you know, it's continuity, so to speak, in that if you're doing it in one area, it's going to work in the other. So again, this is just my opinion as a trainer. And, you know, Cliff doesn't use column view, and I think Matt uses icon, and that's fine if it works for you. And what I always tell my clients is experiment. Try looking at the other Finder views, and then you'll settle into the one that you feel the most comfortable. A lot of my clients, after I'm done working with them, will end up gravitating to list view. But, you know, that's their choice. I use columns, I'd say 98% of the time. Only in specific instances do I switch to list view. So there is your demonstration of column view.
Yeah, I use list view because that's what I was raised on, for lack of a better term. I didn't have Mac for the Blind or other listservs. If it wasn't Google or a book that I wasted my money on because it taught me absolutely nothing, back in the day, you just had to wing it. You had to practice. You had to, you know, rely on the voiceover tutorial. So, I mean, it's personal preference. I mean, John likes column view. I like list view. I mean, I like it because of the way that you open folders. I mean, I guess I can show it. When you're in a list view, you have to interact. So remember the predictable patterns or the gestures that we've been teaching you guys. So it's going to be VO shift down arrow to interact and VO shift up arrow to stop interacting. I've already interacted with this list, so now I'm going down.
Dropbox folder, Google Drive alias, movies folder, collapsed.
Apps I don't even use, Dropbox and Google Drive. I don't even know why they're on here, but whatever.
Music folder,
if I want
collapsed.
to, you know, you heard it say collapse, but if I hit Command down arrow,
left view.
It didn't say expanded, but it said list view again. So
kind, left view, a list, more with the Mac audio folder, collapsed.
I have my more Mac folder down there.
Music folder, sports talk audio folder, fully down icon draft.html.
Again, when you open the folder with Command down arrow, it's automatically going to say list view. But what it's not telling you, and maybe it would if I had my hints speak right away, is that I have to interact by doing VO shift down arrow. So to stop interacting, or I mean to close this folder, I'm sorry, I would just do Command up arrow.
Left view, music folder, January
and
25th,
now
2020.
I'm going to interact with this folder because I want to show you a little trick.
Row 1.
It says that I'm at row 1.
Downloads folder, collapsed.
There's my downloads folder. I don't have to use Command down arrow. I can also use voiceovers and what is that? / It's right below the delete key.
Backslash.
Is that backslash? What's the
Yeah,
slash that's right
backslash.
next to the shift key then? That's forward slash?
That's the
then?
forward slash. Yeah.
Okay, so
Backslash is the
voiceover.
one, yeah.
So voiceover backslash
Row 2 expanded.
expands the folder. So technically, you don't have to interact with it to expand it. You don't even have to do command down arrow. You can use VO backslash, or what did I say? What did we say it was? Forward slash
Backslash. Yeah, VO backslash.
Voiceover backslash to expand it, and you can use VO backslash to collapse it again.
Row 2 collapsed.
So, I mean, it's relative. I'm not going to say easy because I've been doing it. So if you don't feel comfortable with it, you're going to have to practice, especially if you're using voiceover keys. And we haven't even gone over quick nav yet. But to expand the folder in list view, it's command down arrow or VO backslash. And if you want to close the folder, it's VO up, command up arrow or VO backslash again. The VO backslash is basically a toggle and it works anywhere. Like if you're in mail and you want to collapse or expand a thread, you could use VO backslash or to collapse it or close it. I don't use VO or command down arrow on message threads like that, so I couldn't tell you if it works or not. I'm just, I've been doing stuff for so long, been doing stuff a certain way for so long that it's just second nature to me. So. But list view to me is easy. Like John said, you can go into
Corner office window.
You can go into Command J to adjust these.
Corner office. Unchecked. Always open in list view. Checkbox.
It says always. I don't have it checked because I have some folders that, believe it or not, I use column view in. It's not very many, but
Dimmed unchecked. Browse in list view. Checkbox. Group by.
And you can group them by
None. Group by.
Mine's grouped by none, but let's see what's in here.
Menu checkmark. Name.
You can group it by name.
Kind.
Which would put all your folders at the top.
Application.
If you're a former Windows user or you are used to the Windows view, that's how you would make your Finder look like Windows, by the way.
Date last opened.
Date last opened, which I never use. I hate that one because it always confuses me. I'm like, oh, where did my A folder go? But it's all the way down the bottom because I haven't opened it.
Yeah, I don't even bother. Date edit, same thing.
And you can do it by date modified also. So you have a lot of different choices in here. Like John said, poke around. You can't hurt anything. Apple's done a real good job of making sure your system is secure no matter what you do. I'm not going to, don't go throw it in the tub with some soap or anything. But I mean, if you poking around in the folder and you did something wrong, just, Command Q and start over. Because, not a whole lot you can mess up. So,
list view, downloads folder, desktop.
Since we already have, I'm already screen sharing. While I still have John here, I'm going to jump into these voiceover utilities because number one, I don't use them that often. Because it's one of those voiceover utilities is a set it and forget it thing. Once you go in there, you almost never have to go in there. The only thing that I go in there for now is when I want to create or delete or move around my commanders. But as for my settings, I mean, there are the ways that I want them. But let's jump in here.
Voiceover utility.
Now, to get to voiceover utilities, you can go to your applications folder and find the utilities folder, expand it, hit V for voiceover utilities and go to it. Or you could do the launch pad like Matt does. I have a commander for it. Mine's option V. We'll go over that somewhere else down the road.
Voiceover utility.
So,
utility categories. General. Selected.
Our first category is general.
Speak the following greeting after login.
Speak the following greeting after login. You can have this thing say whatever you want to. Mine says,
hello, Clifton Senior.
Mine says hello to my name. So whatever. I mean, I almost always never turn my Mac off anyway. So
uncheck display welcome dialog when voiceover starts. Checkbox.
John, give us a little more detail on that one. It says display welcome dialog checkbox not checked. I'm assuming that's a visual thing on your screen.
Well, what it is when you first, like if you fire up a Mac for the first time, you get that offer, like what it says, welcome to, Mac OS, and it'll say, VoiceOver is a screen reader, that comes part of your Mac. If you know how to use VoiceOver, press, the V key. If you want to learn more about VoiceOver, press the space bar. That's basically, once you press V, the next time you toggle VoiceOver on, you don't get that dialogue. If you like that dialogue, you can check this box. I don't know why you would want that if you know how to use VoiceOver, but it does give you the ability to jump into the quick start tutorial if you're a learner and you're new to VoiceOver. So that's the only reason why you might want to check that box.
I was just about to say, for our new users, that might be something that they keep on for a while if they turn their Mac off, because maybe that's a quicker way for them to get to the getting started guide or whatever. So, okay.
Keys to use as the voiceover modifier.
This is an interesting one here because keys to use as a voiceover modifier. I'm not a caps lock guy. It's too window-ish or window-esque, however you want to pronounce it to me. But some people like the caps lock key because there's less keys to have to push. But basically, you can have the VO keys, which is command and not command,
option.
control and option, or you can use the caps lock key. Some people have both selected.
Control option or caps lock. Keys to use as the voiceover
And I
modifier.
have
Yeah,
both
that's
of
the
mine.
default. Yeah, that's the default.
Yeah, that's the default. But I left mine anyways. I could change it to just the voiceover keys, but it doesn't matter to me because one, I don't even use the VO keys. I use quick nav, and two, caps lock is a great way to get to the dock without having to reach across your body. So you can push the option key and the letter D, and it takes you to your dock. I don't go there very often, but when I do, it's convenient.
Portable preferences off image.
Portable preferences off. This is basically, you could stick a thumb drive into your Mac and you could put your preferences on a Mac or on a thumb drive. So if you go to somebody else's house and they have voiceover, well, of course they're going to have voiceover if they have a Mac, but they don't have their settings set the way you want to, you can take them with you.
Portable preferences off. Setup.
And of course you can set it up.
Portable preferences let you take your voiceover preferences with you. Checked. Allow
I
voice.
just said that.
Portable. Checked. Allow voiceover to be controlled with Apple Script. Checkbox.
Now, this is an interesting one because I had an issue with this a couple weeks ago that John laughed at me about. So
No,
allow your voiceover to be controlled by Apple Script. Now, technically, you don't have to have this checked anymore for the time. But if you want other scripts to be controlled by voiceover, it has to be checked. For instance, I have a script that a friend of me and John's created where you can have a commander that mutes and unmutes your audio with a keyboard command instead of having to reach up to your microphone or go over to Zoom and do it. You can just do it from anywhere. And it wasn't working for me. So I came in here and I saw that this box wasn't checked. I said, well, maybe this needs to be checked. Once I checked that box, that script worked. So it's, it doesn't have to be checked for the time, but if you have other custom scripts that somebody has created for you or that you created yourself, if you taught yourself how, I personally don't have the patience for it, but if you do, this checkbox has to be checked in order for them scripts to work because it has to be able to be controlled by voiceover.
Help.
All right, so let's go back to the top.
Toolbar.
I'm lazy, so I just use VO, the function key and the left arrow. You can just VO all the way out, but that's a little tidbit there for you. If you have an Apple Magic Keyboard, you can hold down the voiceover keys and the function key, hit the left arrow, it'll take you all the way back to the top, or you can hit the right arrow and that'll take you all the way to the bottom. And that works anywhere. Safari, Mail. It doesn't work in text documents because they have another command for it there. But if you're anywhere that you need to go to the top and the bottom of a page, it does work there.
Voiceover utility. Toolbar. Voice utility categories. General. Utility. Verbosity.
All right, verbosity.
Out of utility. Speech. Selected. Tab.
And just for the record, for people that might be coming from Windows, you don't need the VO space bar to select the category you want. You just stop interacting and you go over to it and it's ready to go.
Speech. Selected. Tab.
1
of
All
5.
right, so we have some tabs in here. We have speech.
Braille. Tab. 2 of 5.
Braille.
Text. Tab. 3 of
Text.
5. Announcements. Tab. 4 of 5.
Announcements.
Hints. Tab. 5 of 5.
And hints. Now, I'm not going to go through all these individually. You got to come in here and poke around. But basically, for the voices, you can download additional voices that, I think Windows call them real speak, voiceover. I guess they're just called, enhanced voices or premium voices, and you can download them. Be careful though, because some of them voices take up a lot of space, number one, and number two, if it is a big voice and it takes up a lot of space and you use it in a specific app, like I know somebody who uses a different voice for Pages, a different voice for Mail, and a different voice for Safari. When you go to them apps, it's going to take a little longer for them apps to load because of the size of the voice that you have chosen for it to be used on. So I'll just go back here and tell you a little bit more about these.
Utility categories. Verb. Speech. Selected. Tab. 1 of 5.
Yeah, so that's speech, but it's the same thing. You're downloading voices and you can even select different languages.
Braille. Tab. 2 of 5.
Braille, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you have a Braille display hooked up, you can go in here and adjust the settings for the Braille display. I have one, but I don't use it with my Mac.
Text. Tab. 3 of 5.
Text. This is basically you go in here and tell VoiceOver what you want to hear while you're typing. So you can put it on words, characters, nothing, or both words and characters. You can also select the amount of punctuation you want to hear. I have mine set to some because, period. I don't want to hear period, or ... And I think more recently, VoiceOver John calls it full stop. I had to figure that one out on my own because it didn't give me no kind of indication that that's what a period was. I don't know why they call it a full stop.
Yeah, that's an European thing. I think the British and the Australians call it full stop.
Announcements tab 4 of 5.
Announcements. This is basically if an app has a notification or a pop-up, you want it to tell you when you're not in that app. So if I get a notification from I don't even have, they don't even have that, whatever it is. If I have a notification for Amadeus Pro and one of my recordings is done processing, being saved, it'll say it in the background, yada yada. Amadeus Pro has stopped it has processed your request.
Tab 5 of 5. Announced hints tab.
And
5
then
of 5.
hints. This is the one that
Selected.
I'm gonna go to this one because a lot of people think that they've been using their Mac for a couple of months and they know it all. I'm gonna tell you right now. I've been using my Mac for 14 years. My hints are still on. Okay. Number one,
so
because
mine as a trainer, I still have them on.
Because Apple, it likes to sneak new stuff in there and without telling you. But I mean, if you have your hints on, you would know this anyway. So I leave my hints on. So I always know when something happens. And mine is actually at a little bit of a delay. I think I have it at 10 seconds. So if I don't touch a key or something for 10 seconds, VoiceOver knows to tell me what the hint tag or prompt might be. But please do not turn off your hints because you could miss some very important information.
Unchecked. Speak instructions for using the item in the VoiceOver cursor checkbox.
All right. Now, I don't want to hear instructions in the VoiceOver cursor. That's a personal preference.
When an item has a help tag.
When an item has a help tag.
Speak help. When an item has a help tag.
Speak help, and I think there's a other option that you can have it make a sound, or you can completely turn it off. As you can see, mine it speaks the hint for me.
Speak help. When an item has custom actions.
Custom actions.
Speak help. When an item has custom actions.
I'm telling you, all mine is on speak help. I don't want to hear that sound because one, it's not that loud, and two, sometimes you might miss it when you're doing other things.
When an item has more content. Speak help. When an item has more content.
So you get the idea. When an item has more contents, I have mine to speak because I don't want to miss it. And as we discussed, I think before we took our 2-week break, it's VoiceOver shift in to get it to speak again, right, John? Or is that?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go back up to the top.
VoiceOver utility categories. Utility speech. Navigation.
Navigation.
Out of utility. Initial position. The VoiceOver cursor. Keyboard focus item. Initial position.
I recommend, and John can jump in here at any time because I don't teach this, but I recommend leaving this stuff like it is.
Yeah, I always tell people don't mess with navigation in the beginning, especially because you could really confuse yourself because the cursors, the 3 cursors that just like in Windows, but on the Mac you have a VoiceOver cursor, a mouse pointer, and a keyboard insertion pointer, and by default they stay together, they follow each other around. And it makes life easier. So if you start going into navigation and tweaking things, you're going to have odd things happen. Like I had somebody who turned off the initial position of VoiceOver from the keyboard to focus to another thing. And they couldn't understand when they opened up mail why it wasn't going to the inbox and stuff like that. So just look is fine, but don't
February
change
16th,
anything.
1:34 p.m.
Right. And unless you have a little bit of sight, the cursor is going to make no bit of difference to you anyway. You don't need to see where it's at. The one thing that I really miss about the Mac when I'm at work on Windows is the fact that the VoiceOver cursor follows everything that it does. And I was working with my manager on something last week, and I asked her if she could see where my cursor was at. She was like, no, it's not even on the screen. I'm like, that's why you need to push for them to get me a Mac, because if we were on a Mac and I was screen sharing, you could see everything that I was doing, where I was at, what I was doing, and how I was doing it, because that's just how good the Mac is. I mean, I'm just saying.
Toolbar.
That's the reason why it costs a few bucks.
VoiceOver utility. Utility categories.
So,
utility web.
The web. This is an interesting category.
Navigation. Selected. Tab 1 of 3.
There on the web, there's some navigation.
General. Tab 2 of 3.
General.
Web rotor. Tab 3
Web
of 3.
rotor. I'm assuming, John, that's what you could put in your rotor: links, headings, tables, all that.
Yeah, it's like if you in iOS in the VoiceOver settings where you can say what you can basically adjust what appears on the rotor and what doesn't.
Okay.
Navigate web pages by.
You want to navigate web pages by?
Download or navigate web pages by.
I don't ever mess with this stuff, so I really can't really say no. I mean, John, you got something here to say about this navigation?
Well, it's just there's two ways you can navigate: DOM order and groups. Now, DOM order is the default, which just basically what you see is what you get, meaning that you navigate a web page exactly how it's laid out. So if you're working with a sighted person, unlike other screen readers, that kind of reorganize the page, or your cursor is in a different location than what they're seeing. With DOM order, they can actually see what you're doing on the web. Groups kind of takes web content and it organizes it into content areas to supposedly simplify. you're browsing. So for example, if you go to apple.com and you turn on groups, what will happen is it will divide the screen into 3 areas: the global navigation bar, the main content area, and the Apple footer section. So you have to interact with those individual groups to actually see the content that's contained within. And again, it's supposed to simplify things and make the web easier to understand for people, but that's up, in my opinion, is up to the user. I don't really use groups at all personally.
Yeah, I was poking around in iOS the other day, or maybe it was last week. I see they've brought in that option to the iOS also.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at how that affects iOS. I'm afraid to.
Navigate web pages by Web Loader tab 3.
So we've already talked about what the Red Roller does. It basically does the same thing that it does in iOS or iPad OS. You can add and remove things, put them in the order that you want, whether it's headings, links, whatever. Just a little side note, as John would say, I don't think it matters what you put in your rotor, because if you have single letter navigation on, you can put H for heading, L for link, V for visited link, C for checkbox, X for a list, T for table. I mean, it just goes on and on. So
Yeah,
it really
you know,
doesn't matter.
exactly. Yep, agreed.
What is it? B for buttons. So I
Yes.
mean, it doesn't. You don't have to clutter your rotor with all that stuff, because if you use single letter navigation, which you can toggle on and off with VO and the letter Q, it's a toggle. So pushing it once to turn it on and pushing it again to turn it off, then them rotor options in the on the web are technically not necessary. I have a few there, but not a whole lot.
General tab 2 of 3. Navigation selected tab.
We already
1 of
talked
3.
about navigation, and I think that even in this part, I think it's down to commanders where you can turn quick nav on and off. And again, we haven't even gone over to that yet, so I'm not even going to open that can of worms just yet.
Utility voiceover utility categories. Utility sound.
Now, sound.
Out of utility cat. Uncheck mute sound effects.
The only reason I'm
checkbox.
going to go in here is because there's a few options that I don't like,
Uncheck enable audio ducking checkbox.
and that's it. I
Yeah.
absolutely despise, hate it with a passion. It's like a wart on my toe. I do not like audio ducking. It's designed to make voiceover quiet when other things are happening. But what happens is it ducks voiceover sometimes when it shouldn't. So I don't use it on the phone. I don't use it on my Mac. John, do you use it?
No, because it just it interferes with, especially when you're trying to teach people and do demonstrations. It causes more problems than it really is worth, in my opinion. But again, it's up to the user.
Right.
You know,
Personal
play with
preference, as
it,
we always say.
see what happens, and you make your choice, your educated choice.
Checked enable positional audio checkbox.
Positional audio. I mean, all this stuff is checked for a reason. The first one that I think I interrupted, it said mute voiceover speech, and that was unchecked, of course. I mean, why would you want to be using voiceover and have it muted, especially when you can't get back to it?
Output device.
Now, I came in here because the main reason I came in here is because I wanted to show you a cool little thing that you can do.
Checked output device.
It says output device.
System default. Output device.
Mine technically right now is set at system default. Hopefully nobody from work is listening to this, because when I'm working and it's slow on a Sunday during football season, what I do is I come in here and I put voiceover in my headset, but I put the rest of the system sounds to my output speakers so I can listen to the game. That way, if I get a message or I want to check my email, I can do so with my headset on, but still listen to the game in my speakers. So, and you can also do that. So, I mean, I could change it here, but it will mess with Zoom. I could also make it so you guys couldn't even hear voiceover while I was using it and screen share. But I mean, I could just uncheck the box to share sound if I wanted to do that. But that's, like I said, it's a cool little trick, because you can change your audio source, your source where voiceover comes out of. And it's a great thing to do. Like if you're, like I said, if you want to listen to something in your external speakers, but you want to keep voiceover in your headset. So that's what that is for here.
Toolbar. Voiceover utility.
I think John does the same thing with his AirPod Maxes sometimes.
Utility
Yep.
categories. Sound selected. In utility category. Visuals.
Visuals, I'm not even going in here because I'm
Yeah,
blind.
that's more for sighted, like
Right.
TVIs who work with a blind
Exactly.
student, or have to assist, where you can, for example, the simplest example would be the caption panel with voiceover for a TVI who needs to see what, may not understand the voiceover speech because you got it turned up to, 55 or 75 or whatever. They can at least see the output.
Commanders.
Now, we've already talked about this. I'll talk about it a little bit, but I think I'm going to put that in a bonus recording, so you can follow along and pause. That's not something you can teach. I mean, I could teach it on the fly, but you're not going to get it anyway. So I want to make sure I take my time with that. But basically, commanders is keyboard shortcuts. You tell you can use the option key left or right, or you can use both. It's recommended that you don't use both. I don't know why. I've never done it. I don't care. But I'm right-handed, so mine is the right option key. And as we stated, you can, the default ones is option T for time, option M for mail, option S for Safari, and there's an option X one. I don't remember what it is because I deleted it because I never used it. Now I created a few. I mean, option C opens my messages. Option B opens my blogging app. Option E opens my pages app. Option R opens my loopback app, what I use from Rogue Beniba to do recordings and set virtual devices. So, I mean, there's a world of options you can do in here. I even use numbers. I have a commander that takes me to the top and to the bottom of the page because I don't always want to push the VO function right or left arrow. If I can just push option 1, it takes me to the top. Option 2 takes me to the bottom. You can even use capital letters. I use capital Q to open QuickTime. I use capital U for, what did I use that for? It used to be my Twitter app, but since they are no longer supporting third-party Twitter apps, I don't use that no more. I use Shift G for my audio hijack app. So there's a whole lot of things you can do in here. And again, if I don't put it up with this recording, maybe I'll record it and play it in our last class, which is next week. But I mean, it's a world of things you could do in there. And there's also a keyboard commander. There's a numpad commander. And as we discussed in the recording that me, John, and Matt did, I don't know if anybody listened to it, but we put it up on the podcast last weekend, the trackpad commander. And there's commanders you can do with that. So there's a world of options in here. And QuickNav is also in here where it tells you how to turn it on and off, where it tells you that single key letter navigation is on or off. I have no idea why that's here instead of up there with web browsing, but I didn't design the Mac, so that's all up to Apple.
Braille.
Another Braille section here. This is a Braille section by itself. I'm assuming the other one was for the verbosity level of what it showed you in Braille. This is the actual Braille display where you can select 6 or 8 dot, and don't quote me on this because I don't use it, but I think that's what's in there.
Activities.
Yeah, it's got a whole bunch of stuff, configuring the Braille display, whether you use Bluetooth or USB. You can have a primary Braille display and a backup Braille display. There's all kind. If you're a Braille aficionado, that's the place you want to go.
Aficionado. I can't even spell that word.
Braille. Activities.
And then we have activities. I'm going to stop here because a lot of people have asked me about this. I'm not going to show you how to create one because it's pretty self-explanatory. But the bottom line is you can create activities to do certain things. So if I open up Pages, my QuickNav will automatically turn off. That's how I have it set, because I know in the edit field on the Mac that you can't type with QuickNav on. Safari, I used to have an activity where it would automatically turn QuickNav on, single letter navigation would be on, and one other thing, I can't remember what it was. But since Apple has come up with this cute little thing called single letter navigation that you can toggle on and off, I don't have to do that anymore. I know some people who use different voices, like I said before, for mail and things like that. I know somebody who has a voice, a different voice for mail, and it automatically they have it so it automatically takes them directly to settings so they can check something. I don't know. It's a world of things that you can do in here. I also have an activity that when I open up Audio Hijack Pro, that it automatically defaults to the voiceover defaults, because Audio Hijack gives you a lot more information that I turn off elsewhere, but I want to hear it in Audio Hijack so I know where my blocks are so I can record and things of that nature. So when I open Audio Hijack, it defaults to a slower speech and more punctuation and more information that it gives me. So this is something that you can explore. And again, it's self-explanatory. Just make sure that you select this
Voiceover recognition.
The app that you want to use with that voice or that activity is selected. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Voiceover recognition, John, tell us a little bit about this one on the Mac.
Well, that's when it's basically similar to what you have in iOS for the image recognition and such. So you can choose whether you want to turn it on and off. It's interesting to me because some users really don't like the recognition being turned on. They think it's too much information and so forth. So that's really up to you. I don't think anything is turned on by default in the voiceover recognition. So you might want to poke around in there and experiment and see if it makes a difference. So for example, with an image, voiceover will try to describe the image. And if there is readable text in that image, it will try to read it to you.
I've had
For
great
me,
success
I
with
love
that
it.
too.
Yeah, I love that stuff. I mean, because I have friends and family who forget that I'm blind and they love to put Facebook things up that is just an image. So the image description will read the text in the image so I can actually understand what the joke was or whatever.
Right. And also, I don't know, and I'm pretty sure you knew this, John, but I didn't know this until about a month ago. If you do VO shift in the letter L while you're on an image, it will describe it to you if possible.
Yeah, if it's possible, yes.
Voiceover recognition.
And that is the last one thing in here in voiceover utilities. Again, this is a lot of information in here, and I didn't touch on every single thing, but it's definitely worth coming in here and poke around. There's nothing that you can mess up in here that you can't fix because there's always going back to default. So one last thing I'm going to show you while we're in here
Menu
is
bar, Apple.
I'm going to go to the menu bar.
Voiceover file.
And the shortcut key for this is Command Shift I, but you can or is it E? Is you can import and export voiceover settings. And I've done this. That's why when people tell me about something, then ask me where it's at, I have no idea because I've been doing this since lying, I guess, maybe before that. I like my settings the way that they are, so I don't change anything. So
File. Import references ellipsis Command Shift I.
So yeah, import is Command Shift I.
Export references ellipsis Command Shift E.
And export is Command Shift E. And you could also go back to the defaults with
set up portable references ellipsis Command Shift B.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even know that. Command Shift B, did he say?
Yes.
Reset basic voiceover preferences ellipsis.
Yep, and there it is. You could reset voiceover preferences there. And I always keep a backup file, probably 2 of them on 2 different hard drives just in case, because setting up these voiceover these verbosities and just the voices and all that takes a lot of time. I mean, just imagine setting up your iPhone from scratch. It's just as much work. So I don't want to have to do that if I don't have to.
Finder, desktop.
The last thing I'm going to show you, and then we're going to take some questions, is just a little quick tidbit. I know John has a recording of system settings, but I'm going to go in here and show you how to update your software because an update came out this week, and I don't know if anybody grabbed it yet, but we're going to go in here, and I've already done it, but I'm going to show you how to get to it. So we're going to open up system settings, and as you should know by now, I have a commander for it. I actually stole it from John. It's Command Shift or Option Shift S.
System settings, appearance, search text field, table, appearance, selected.
Now, the first thing you heard was search. So you could actually search for the category that you want or push the first couple letters and go to it. So
search text field, blank.
Say I wanted passwords. I would just push PAS.
Pause, table. In table, passwords.
And passwords is right there. And of course, it's asking for my password because it thinks I want to go in there, but I don't.
Passwords are enter the password, enter password, vertical splitter, table, passwords, selected, pause, content selected,
So
search
I'm
text
going to
field.
clear this and I'm going to go to general, which is where software update is. It's in, just imagine going to software update on your phone or your iPad. It's
Yeah,
the
it's
exact same
thing.
place.
Yep.
Pass G, insertion at end of table. Verticals, in vertical splitter. Out of table, in general. Out of table, verticals, general.
And you interact with this table with VO shift down arrow.
In general, software update.
And there it is. It's the very first thing. So I'm a VO space bar on software update.
Vertical splitter, software update.
And again, you have to VO right arrow and get to the, what would we call it, the grid area or the vertical splitter, or not the vertical splitter, but the scroll area.
Help. Use of the software is subject to the original license agreement that accompanies.
Hold on, are you telling me that?
More info.
Is there another
Mac
update?
OS Ventura 13.3 beta.
Oh, it's a beta.
Oh, there's the
Okay.
beta.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's nice to know. You go, but again, I went into system settings. Again, you don't have to, but I hit the letters GE, so it would take me right to general. The old right arrow until you get to that scroll area or interact with the scroll area, and software updates the first thing. You VO spacebar on it, it's automatically going to check. And as you heard, it told me that I have an update to install. If you didn't update to Mac OS 13.1, I guess it is, then you probably have an update. If you already did, then you're good to go. But that's how you get to software update.
How do you, like, for a person who's just coming to it fresh, especially a blind person, how do you explain a tree view?
Oh, I get into a lot more detail then. I'll use a whole bunch of different analogies like basement, sub-basement, you
There
know,
you
an
go.
apartment building or a hotel. You know,
Yeah.
I find no, I'm not trying to be sexist or anything, but a lot of the female clients love like the mall. And I talk about walking through the mall, going into stores, going into the specific departments of Macy's or whatever. So I try to come up with whatever analogy will work best for somebody, a file cabinet, you know, whatever
I understand.
seems to click in their minds is
Uh-huh.
how I can describe Finder.
I have a question, but I'm thinking I'm talking early because we haven't done much about Zoom. But what I wanted to know is when I go on Zoom and I call myself muting myself before I get in or whatever to but each time that I've been on, they could hear everything that my Mac
Okay,
is
what you
saying.
want to do, because I have this set too. There's a setting. So go command comma, interact with the table, and go down to sound. It's right after video, or it's audio. Actually, it says audio. It's right after video. Stop interacting and go all the way to the end. Work your way back. There's a checkbox that says automatically mute my audio when joining a meeting. Check that box. When you check that box, you'll always be muted when you come into a meeting. Another box that's there that you might want to check, and this is for anybody, is automatically join internet audio. You want that box to be checked too, because you don't want to have to select it each time you join a meeting. It gets annoying. All right. Well, if that's all, this is the end of today's Mac. More with the Mac. I was about to say Mac for the Blind. This is all for More with the Mac for this week. If you have any questions, concerns, or there's something you want us to cover before the next class, remember to send the email to support@stiritup.com, and that's STURITUP. Thanks for joining us, everybody.